Get ready, because this is a very special video. When Jupiter entered Cancer, Mercury made it clear how important it is during all this transit, during all the time that Jupiter will be in Cancer. While Mercury is many things, he is the messenger, the one who travels between dimensions, as much as he is the weaver of new ideas, of new information capable of conceiving new realities, new understandings. And he has distinct octaves in a very clear way. There is a difference between Hermes, who is the Greek messenger god, and Hermes Trismegistus, the 3 times wise, an archetype that unites Hermes to the Egyptian god Thoth, what gives him the gift of wisdom, writing, and magic. I'm not even going to talk about Mercury's trade gifts. When Mercury enters Cancer, and Jupiter also enters Cancer, and they practically do this at the same time, they will meet again at the exit of Jupiter. And right there, at this beginning, Jupiter gives Mercury a mission, an incumbency, and you will be on this mission until June 30th, 2026, which is the mission of going beyond what you already know, what you already understand, of going beyond all your judgments. It is as if every human being at that moment was pregnant with a new understanding. And like all pregnancy, it is a process. It is something that is in formation, that will take a while to be ready, for us to see exactly what face it has. When Mercury enters Leo on June 26th, that's the moment he actually begins this journey. Leo is the house of the sun, the brightness, the possibility of creating oneself within his own truth. And this is the path of the heart. Quoting again the famous phrase of Castaneda, which I have already said here 1,000 times, before entering a path, ask yourself if this path has a heart. This is the path that Mercury wants. As the one who crosses between several dimensions, this is what Mercury is doing to you at this moment, with your consciousness, with your perception. Mercury wants you to somehow access what will give voice to your own heart. This is a voice that arises not because you are rebelling against something, but because you are discovering something beyond the limits that you have already established for yourself, something that suddenly you feel, you think, but in your logic your head says, hello, come back to reality now. And Mercury's incumbency is precisely to take you beyond this reality. Nonetheless, remember this, it was Jupiter in Cancer who gave this mission. This means that this discovery will come to nourish you, to welcome you, to make you feel good, to renew your hope, your perspectives in life. Although I will give you precise dates, let's consider that this frequency also resonates in the days around. On June 28th, Mercury made an exact trine with Saturn, and 8 hours later with Neptune, both in Aries. Here, Mercury is already in opposition to Pluto and Aquarius, although the exact conjunction took place on the 29th. When Mercury enters this fire trine, fire is the element of creation. We have here an embryo of a new dream, a new understanding structuring itself, a new insight, a new ideal. Something is happening here within your understanding. But what you need to know is that whatever comes from your intuition, from the depth of your heart, will require discipline, dedication, work, time. It requires you to believe, not as an act of faith, but as an act of recognizing that it makes sense to you. Here you have something pointing you towards a path. Many lines cross and dissolve here. You can feel, for example, attracted to something that seems fanciful. You can start a process of rewriting your own story with more affinity, because we are already doing that. When Mercury trines Saturn, which is the representation of the normal dimension of our reality, and at the same time trines Neptune, which represents the dimension beyond reality, we have here a speech a word that is at the same time powerful and inspired. It is committed, but it is not closed. It is a creative force that wants to make a real difference in the world, which is being born for the world. But when we talk about Aries and Leo, we are talking about beginning and individuality, which are both solitary energies, so that you may feel more alone at that moment, not very well integrated in the group. And maybe this is important so that you do not get lost in the others' voices and have more space to hear your own voice. You may also be feeling somehow stranger, weird, with no sure how to discern between what is really right, what is real, what is imagination, what is artificial, what is fake. This is not the moment for you to ask yourself, wow, is this that I am thinking about from my head? This is the moment for you to ask yourself, wow, is this that I am thinking about from my heart? Imagine that in front of you there is this huge puzzle. It is done, it is assembled, and you take a piece, and this piece changes shape in your hand, and suddenly it does not fit anymore in the original scheme. But you still do not know where it fits, you still do not know what is the complete figure to which it belongs. This is a feeling that many people may be feeling at this moment, along with a huge load of emotion to understand, to process. And it is as if in a single day, we process a whole year, we process millions of things simultaneously. When we have Saturn and Neptune in Aries, our temporal perception also changes. Haki. At the same time that Mercury is in this fire trine, it is opposite to Pluto and sextile Admetos, which means a pressure to move you to a higher octave, this place where Hermes becomes Hermes Trismegistus. And here, your dream, your idea, your purpose may be threatened by a force that comes from outside, which can be a confrontation with someone due to a misunderstanding because you do not agree on something, or it can be triggers that come to you and that move internal fears, obsessions, addictions, deep emotions that still hurt inside, that still bubble, that are not yet 100% resolved. And the best way for you to deal with this is with wisdom. It is with presence of spirit, when something inside you stops to think before reacting in the same way as you would before. This, in the collective field, also marks a conflict of interests, more war plans, deals that are not respected, conversations that can only prosper if they really have some love, some truth, some honor. Remember this if you have to undergo difficult conversations in this period. Let's remember once again that Mercury is in the crusade that Jupiter in Cancer passed on to him. And Jupiter here is conjunct Sun, which rules Mercury in Leo. This means that lie shall not last, that honor is necessary, and honor is part of the principle that you are present and embodying your own truth. And here we have a catch, because one can think, how am I going to know if what I think is true is really true? And if what I think is the most sacred, genuine movement of my heart is a great farce, a great illusion, a great lie? And yes, there's a risk. It may be indeed. It may be that what you believe as the greatest supreme truth is not exactly what it is. But if this is the case, it may be that was not the path, but on that path there was a key that you needed. There was an initiation. There was a rescue to be done. So if you went through this, remember this principle. There are very good questions for you to ask yourself here. What do you love? Who do you love? And most importantly, what do you believe in? Because believing is not a passive movement. Believing is the act of putting your energy into something. When you believe, you feed. If you believe in something that goes against the mainstream, this is an act of revolution. It's dangerous. Our system has learned that believing in something different is a threat to our own survival. And this is a code, it is information that is imprinted in the collective unconscious. So it is normal that there is a resistance to how far we dare to believe to be able to maintain our own security. Just look at the history of humanity. If I believe in one God and you believe in another God, if my book says one thing and your book says something else, we have a war. Look, for example, at the Inquisition, the witch hunt. How many thousands of people were killed, especially women? Belief systems are narratives that move the world and divide humanity. It doesn't matter if at the top of the pyramid what rules is something else. The imprint that remains in the collective is that having beliefs contrary to the beliefs of the vast majority is dangerous. So that to believe in something new without the support of a group is highly challenging. Do you think that the witch hunt is over? No, it's not over. It has been reorganized in other ways, other faces. When you believe, it requires not only courage, it requires that you choose to believe and have authority over what you chose to believe. This means that you will not go out in search of validation, but that you will sustain what you believe as a way of honoring and expanding yourself. June 28th, 29th, and 30th are days very connected to August 10th and 11th, just as the seed is connected to the fruit. You may also say, well, I don't know. Nothing extraordinary happened to me. I didn't have any conversation. I didn't have any insight. I had no idea. If that's the case, maybe you're looking at the wrong place. Maybe you're waiting for a megaphone to announce something. But we have to remember that we are in the midst of Neptune. It is a subtle voice. It may be a whisper. It may be a different dream. It may be an idea that comes to you and feels too weird to even be considered. But whatever comes to you, pay attention, follow the trail. If you have a dream, for example, write down what you remember about that dream and research the subject. Do some sort of investigative work. On June 30th, Mercury makes the first semi-sextile, which is a 30-degree angle aspect, considered a minor transit, but I consider relevant and very magical, because this is a transit of giving birth, even though it brings an energy that requires adjustments, because we are dealing with two elements, a priori antagonistic. Here, in this case, we have Leo fire and Cancer water, and water puts out the fire. But if it is in the right measure, remember, we have the steam. And in the steam, we have the force with which we cook, with which we generate something that nourishes, that sustains. In the feminine, we talk about the fire of the heart going down to the waters of the womb, enabling the creation of something genuinely beautiful. This first semi-sextile takes place on June 30th at 1 hour and 4 minutes Brasilia time. And it happens at 4 degrees and 44 minutes. Keep this position 4 degrees and 44 minutes. When Mercury enters in retrograde motion, it makes the second semi-sextile on July 29th at 0 hours and 37 minutes Brasilia time. And this one takes place at 11 degrees and 6 minutes. And the third, with Mercury already moving it forward again, takes place on August 26th at 0 hour and 16 minutes Brasilia time at 16 degrees and 47 minutes. These are 3 extremely precious days of forces that move silently like springs from which large and abundant rivers can redefine routes in your life, in your psyche, in your system of internal beliefs. Some dates are very striking during this path, especially August 10th and 11th, when Mercury retrograde stops to go forward again. And even if it is not by exact degree, when Mercury stops, it trines Saturn and Neptune in Aries again, as much as repeat the opposition aspect to Pluto in Aquarius. Plus 2 more sextiles with air signs, one with Uranus in Gemini and the other with Mars in Libra, which suggests an urge to speak, to break pre-established rules in order to viabilize new agreements, new understandings in a more diplomatic way, even if it is with a strangeness and a certain emotional discomfort, since in the morning of the 10th, this Mercury still makes quincunx with the moon in Pisces, bringing again the need to balance fire and water, balancing intensity with welcoming strength of personal will, without failing to honor your own origins. Recognizing that in your ancestry, either you have a value guide or you have the mark of a value that you have transcended and gained wisdom in the process. Understanding that a guidance for the best version of your future comes from validating the old deep whispers of your own soul. It may seem too poetic for a rational mind, but that's it. One here can either fantasize to get out of reality or can enter other dimensions of consciousness and intuit absolutely new things to create new steps, new paths, new realities. August 10th and 11th are very neuralgic days. I'm very curious to see what these days will bring. They are 2 days with many pieces moving at the same time. And considering that Mercury is stationed at 4 degrees and 16 minutes in Leo, when a planet stations to change directions between moving forward or retrograde, he is highlighting an important point. In this case, 4 degrees of Leo. Mercury spotlights this degree and says, pay attention, look here, look at this point, look closely to what you have here. So that look in your chart. What do you have at 4 degrees of Leo? And if you don't have anything there, you may see how this degree can aspect some other planet or point in your chart. Look at the house it falls. Because this will give you guidelines, will give you more clarity about the keys you need now to better understand the path you must follow. Collectively, August 10th and 11th are very intense days in terms of technology, artificial intelligence, issues related to nuclear bombs, chemical and biological weapons, volcanoes, as well as issues involving DNA research and neurological systems. What happens here is relevant and sets a long-term resonance for everything that is coming ahead. I understand that today we look at the world and it is difficult to recognize the world as it was not long ago. How can everything have changed and be changing so quickly in a way that the world practically becomes unrecognizable today? Considering that Mercury transits between different dimensions, carrying and bringing messages, and it is trining Saturn, which is the Lord of Time, Lord of Karma, Lord of Reality, and at the same time trines Neptune, which is the Lord where time dissolves, we are feeling this paradox. We are feeling this dissonance. For those who consider timelines as a reality, that migrating from one timeline to another is possible, as I particularly do, and I have lived things that are unbelievable in that sense. And if you also have gone through these kind of experiences, please consider sharing in the comments so that other people can know that this is really possible. So, for those who work with this possibility, you may have different perceptions from this huge overload of emotions, where it seems that everything is happening at the same time, as if many timelines, past, future, parallels, are now converging to a common point. It is as if all of them are coupling to each other, and from each one of them you rescue something, a fragment, a debt, a relationship, a talent, an ally, an enemy, a mission. And it feels that we are fragmenting into 1,000 pieces. But maybe it is the opposite. Maybe we are reintegrating and solving many things at an absolutely staggering speed, even if, paradoxically, we may have the feeling that life is kind of stuck, that we are not getting anywhere in some matters. Another thing you may be feeling in a more recurring way are moments where suddenly your mind disappears. It wandered somewhere that you can't even tell where it was. It may give you a feeling of blankness, of emptiness, numbness, of anesthesia. But when you come back, it feels that you have with you the remnant of an emotional load that you weren't even feeling before. And then suddenly you start feeling, and this is a load that can be heavy, it can be dense, it can be strange, as much as it can be a sudden inspiration about something. When I was calculating this Mercury transit, a voice hit me, whispering, "Lou, go look at the chart of the end of times according to the Mayan calendar, the prophecy that a great cycle would end on December 21st, 2012, and after that, anything could happen." I don't know if you remember this prophecy. It was often interpreted as an apocalyptic omen of the end of the world. I don't know almost anything about Mayan culture. I never studied the Mayan calendar. I never delved into this civilization. But I got this voice, so I obeyed, and I went to look. And of course, I almost fainted when I saw everything that was there. But the chart I found on my own significant was not from December 21st. It was from the 30th, with Sun and Pluto together at 9 degrees and 16 minutes of Capricorn, sextiling Saturn at 9 degrees of Scorpio. I will put the charts on the screen for you to see. If you are an astrologer, take a screenshot and then come back to tell me what you saw in them too. To non-astrologers, I ask you to forgive me, but this is so incredible that I have to show. The Sun in December 30, 2012 is in opposition by exact degree with the Sun in June 30, 2025. Pluto there was sextile Saturn. Pluto here is sextile Saturn. Mercury there, sextile Neptune. Mercury here, sextile Neptune. Neptune there is beginning the Pisces cycle. Neptune here is beginning the Aries cycle. Here we have the first semisextile between Mercury and Jupiter at 4 degrees and 44 minutes, showing the beginning of these 3 dates that I gave you, through which something important will be born. This triangle made of these 3 days is like a womb. And there, on December 2012, we have Uranus in Aries at 4 degrees and 44 minutes. And Uranus there is in conjunction with our Saturn and Neptune here, and also sextile our Pluto here. Anyway, there are so many implications. But I was still puzzled by the fact that the chart I found was not the one of the solstice on the 21st, which is the official Mayan date of the prophecy. The chart I found is from the 30th. That's when I discovered that according to the prophecy, at the end of 2012, a god would come down called Bolon Yokteku, known as the Lord of the 9 Steps, Lord of the 9 Paths, also as Lord of the transition between worlds and the 9 steps of initiation in the underworld. And he would come to start a cycle called 13 Days of the Final Act. Let's remember that from 2012 to 2025, we have a gap of 13 years. And according to the prophecy, this deity would stay for 9 days, leaving Earth on December 30th, 2012. And this would be, in fact, the opening of the portal. And once opened, the gods of time would withdraw so that humanity would discover on its own what exists when crossing this portal, what exists behind this door that was opened. I felt as if from that moment to this moment now, we had lived a pilgrimage through the underworld. We have been initiated in many ways. We changed many things. We managed our consciousness to be reborn now. It feels as if from there to here, we have a bridge like a wormhole in space, through which we enter there and come out here now with instantaneous resonance. Considering this context, the portal opened in 2012, and we shall really cross just now in 2025. This is a very deep cosmological vision that at the same time brings together several perspectives of astrology, prophecy, mathematics, a mystical, political, social perspective. And if you want me to make a video of this study, because I'm already doing several studies, please let me know in the comments that this is a topic that interests you, and I shall prepare a video when it is all ready and I bring it to the channel. There are many details, including occurrences on March 31st, 2019, and surroundings, which is kind of the central point in this timeline that very much connects with here and now occurrences. The more I look at all, the more I am convinced of the extraordinary, complex, and somewhat scary time that humanity is going through, where we can either live a great spiritual and mystical awakening, or we can go into a collective and disruptive hallucination without precedents. Maybe timelines can split, and some goes one way and others go the other way, and maybe both possibilities are real. Anyway, I never ever imagined that I was going to find all of this, when the original idea was just to make a simple post on Mercury's transit. You may think that what is changing is the world, but that's not all. You are too. We all are. And maybe this is the biggest mystery and the biggest challenge. The question may not be what is going to happen to the world, but what is going to happen to you. In how many ways are you going to transform? What are you going to discover about yourself that you can't even imagine? What I, Luciane, particularly believe is that the war is not between good and evil. The war is between remembering or maintaining the amnesia. And to close this video, I'm going to quote a sentence from Colin Wilson that I took from a book I'm reading called The Occult. And that's what he says. The message of the symphonies of Beethoven could be summarized.
Man is not small, he's just bloody lazy. Remember who you are.
This is a new channel, and your presence here means more than you know. If this transmission touched you, please like, share, and subscribe. Let the codex reach who is ready.